On today's show, we've got a full slate of preseason games to talk about. Have the Magic fixed their offense? Giannis suits up for the Bucks, and so much more on today's edition of Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham from Locked On Cavs, and he is Swipa from Locked On Nuggets. And thank you for making today's edition of Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. We are on YouTube as well, so make sure you hit that thumbs up button for us. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell as we get started here with today's show. Of course, this show a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, because right now new customers on FanDuel can bet just $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. So head to FanDuel.com to get started today. So we had a full day of NBA preseason action. I think one of the most crowded preseason dates before the real thing gets started in just over a week from now, and there was a lot of good basketball to watch today.
Yeah, there's a lot of good basketball. There's a lot of interesting players. There's a lot of great storylines. I mean, we're in the thick of days of our lives of the NBA season. This is when you're still not seeing full, basketball because you're not in regular season yet, but you're getting a lot of really good basketball play. All the coaches have been talking about all the offseason work, the thing they want to focus on, keys to success, mottos for the upcoming year, and then you get a chance to see the young players that every fan base is looking forward to. Man, this is going to be the year this person breaks out to help us to win the championship or contend for a title. And then you got some veterans bouncing back from injuries in other places. So I love preseason because you get a chance to see what the players and what the coaches, whatever they bought into going into the summer, you get a chance to see them try to experiment on it. And one of the things I noted on an earlier show, Danny, preseason is a perfect opportunity because it is not results oriented, it is process oriented. And so you get a chance to watch players and teams try to figure out new schemes and add new players to the rotation as well. So I think that we got a chance to see a lot of that today.
Yes, it's a time for growth. It's a time to try new things, as you mentioned. And the Orlando Magic are one of those teams trying a new thing. That new thing being, in the top half of the NBA in offense, which they haven't been in 13 years. 2012 was the last time they had a top 20 offense in basketball. So far, early returns are good. They beat the Miami Heat on Sunday. Well, let's head on over to Philip Rossman-Reich, host of Locked On Magic, for more.
This is Philip Rossman-Reich, the host of Locked On Magic, as the Orlando Magic remain perfect in the preseason with a win over the Miami Heat. And the story of this game is going to be the offense. The Orlando Magic's offense has been pretty good. They entered Sunday's game fourth in the league in offensive rating for whatever that's worth in the preseason. They scored another 62 points in the first half. Franz Wagner had 13 of his 17 points in the second quarter. Wendell Carter had 10 early points. And the Magic's offense is flowing and moving. The question is whether this newfound pace, this newfound rhythm, even with the Magic not shooting particularly well from three, is something that's going to continue on into the regular season. As everybody knows, the Orlando Magic have been one of the worst offensive teams of the last decade. They haven't been outside the bottom 10 in offensive rating since Dwight Howard was here in 2012. Of course, the addition of Desmond Bane was meant to add some offense and add some shooting to this team that they desperately needed. And so far, it feels so good for the Orlando Magic. In the preseason, they're scoring, they're getting offensive rebounds, they're putting the ball in the basket even if the shots aren't going down. The question is whether this is going to last into the regular season.
Well, I'll ask you the question he finished with. Do you think the Magic's offensive resurgence that we've seen in the preseason is going to last into the regular season?
If you are an audio listener, I just want you to know that there is rain dropping. A sad song playing in the background. I highly doubt it, Danny. It is not because I do not like the Magic. I am a big Magic fan. I have Anthony Black and Tristan DeSilva as two of my favorites for breakout player of the year. This, the metaphysical award that we hand out every single year. I think that Wendell Carter Jr. is a dog. I love Wendell Carter Jr. I have been on Wendell Carter Jr. train for ever since he was traded actually for Vooch, 2021 or whenever that was. So I love this team, but they don't have all of the pieces you kind of need in the modern NBA, I think, to have sustained offensive greatness, which is very good playmaking, very good shooting, very good rim finishing. They got good rim finishing, at least hypothetically, in Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, but then they don't have very good playmaking. They got good playmaking for wings. I think Paolo, good playmaker, Franz, good playmaker, Jalen Suggs, we'll see, Bane, good, not great. And then obviously you have Tyus Jones, and then you have like Jet Howard and Anthony Black and Silva. Like, can they get there? Well, again, that's a lot of ifs. Typically when you have like a very high leverage offense in the NBA, you're talking about teams that are like really truly knee deep in like strategies. You got the OKC Thunder, Shea, Dub, Chet. I mean, they're just going crazy. Obviously, Shea, one of the best offensive players in the league. You got the Celtics. They're putting up 52% of their shot profiles from three, and Tatum and Brown and like Derek White and Drew. Then you got the Clippers, Harden and Zoo and Kawhi. And then you get, Jump Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns or Steph Curry, offense unto himself. Obviously, the Nuggets, offense, unto himself with Jokic. Minnesota Timberwolves. I mean, you just go through it. Like, I don't know. Because the Timberwolves last year, Danny, they were a top 5 offense from January to April, but the Timberwolves have Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, Mike Conley. I mean, they just have a different type of attack. I don't know if the Magic, if they can sustain repeated offensive greatness to be able to be a high-level offense for the rest of the year, all year.
I just don't think that they're going to have the shooting. And one of the things that Philip mentioned is the pace aspect of things. And what is something that we hear from, I would bet, all 30 NBA coaches in preseason, in training camp? It's, we want to play with more pace. We want to improve our pace. We want to play faster this year. And some teams do it. Like, you can see some teams that take a jump, particularly when there are new coaches that come into town. Like, I think back to last year, and when the Cavs moved on from JB Bickerstaff and they were near the bottom of the league in pace, and Kenny Atkinson comes in and says, hey, I want to improve the pace this year. I want the Cavs to play faster. And they finished, I believe it was 10th or 11th last year. So you will see moves like that. But I don't know that the Orlando Magic have changed enough personnel to say, yes, we want to become a team that's going to play a lot faster. And if they don't play near the top of the league in pace, which I don't think they're suited to do, I really don't think they have the shooting to be one of the best offenses in basketball. Like, I think that, is there a chance they're inside the top 20 in the NBA, which is such a low bar, right? Like, it is such a low bar to just be, hey, be one of the 19 best offenses in basketball. Should not be that hard to do once in a while. I think that's possible. I think top half of the league is going to be a stretch for them, though.
Yeah, I mean, just for fans that are, like I said, you're kind of listening and like, well, how do you know that? Well, you just got to go through the list of like who are the top offenses last year. I mean, even just 15 to 12 last year was the Clippers, the Pistons, and the Suns. And obviously that's like Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. And then from there, when you get to the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard was hurt for a lot of the season. So once they got him there, all of a sudden they're like a top 3, top 5 offense. And then if you look at like even the Los Angeles Lakers with Luka Doncic and LeBron, the Atlanta Hawks are 17th. And I think the Hawks, if anything, they're the ones that I'm expecting to jump, because they're going to have Kristoff and Jalen Johnson back and Zachary Richichet, and then now Trae Young being able to put it all together. There's just a lot of really talented offensive teams, and I just don't think that the Magic have that kind of talent on their side. Maybe, but again, are we underestimating that Paolo and Franz can have like these pretty significant playmaking leaps, and they kind of like the Nuggets, instead of inversing, they inverse the style. Instead of outversing, they just basically say, we're going to attack the rim repeatedly. And then when you get free throws and you get dunks and you get your offensive efficiency shoots up, that's how you get your offensive numbers boosted. So maybe that's what they're going to do.
Maybe. We will have to wait and see to find out, but that is going to be, I think, one of the more interesting subplots at the start of the season, to see how Orlando's offense looks early on. Well, speaking of two teams that were at the top of the league offensively last year, the Cavs and the Celtics, they squared off in a preseason game on Sunday night. Let's head on over to John Corrales for more from this one.
Celtics cruise to an easy win over the, G League Cavaliers. Once again, the Celtics faced a team that was resting all of their regulars, which is disappointing, because I was looking forward to a test of this Boston Celtics team. And frankly, I thought they made a lot of mistakes early on, that their shooting and Cleveland's inability to make them pay just covered up for a lot of those things. Their inability to rebound is a problem. The Celtics are not a good defensive rebounding team. That is going to kill them against good competition. This Cavs team, if it was at full strength, would have capitalized on it. They couldn't, and so they end up falling behind by ultimately 37 at one point. So I think the Celtics did enough to take advantage of their situation. They shot very well, 40+% from three. Anthony Simons got hot. He went 6 of 9 from three. Peyton Pritchard got the thing going early. But the bottom line for the Celtics is this preseason hasn't been a test for them really at all. We haven't really learned much at all about this team. So disappointing that they haven't had a tough opponent yet. We'll have to wait until the regular season, I guess, to figure out just what this Celtics team is made of.
I do think the Celtics are going to be maybe a little bit better than some people anticipate, provided that Jaylen Brown can stay healthy. Like if he gets hurt, I really, really think that it's going to be tough for them to find any success. Ultimately, I think that their margin for error is the thing that is just so much shorter than it was last year. Like last year, if they had an off night from three, they were obviously beatable, but they could still find other ways to win. This year, if they don't shoot the ball well, I think it's going to be difficult for them to find victories.
Well, again, that's the same thing we talk about. I have a love affair with Darius Garland, and very well known, very well documented at this point. One of the things you have to have is somebody who can put pressure vertically on the defense. And Jaylen Brown is not the kind of ball handler that does that consistently. Derek White can, but he's also not still a dynamic enough playmaker shooter for you to consistently do that. But maybe he steps into that role and that elevates it. But if you just look at the roster, they have a lot of play finishers on the roster. I mean, you're talking about Sam Hauser. I think Peyton Pritchard is good, but again, it's still not a high-level ball handler creator. I think that they're going to struggle to create good looks, obviously, without Jason Tatum. But it's not just, Danny, that they don't have Jason Tatum. It's that they don't have Jason Tatum, and they don't have Kristaps, and they don't have Drew Holiday. Trying to manufacture offense, I think, for them, like I said, is also going to be tough. They will still be a team, I think, is fighting for the playoffs, but definitely the high-level just avalanches that the Celtics would go on last year, I don't know how often that will be repeated this season.
I think there'll be a team fighting for the playoffs, but I think that says a lot more about where the East is than where the Celtics are right now. I think if Boston was located, on the other side of the Mississippi, I'm not sure that they'd be fighting for the playoffs. I think it would be probably a much different narrative as far as the Celtics go this year. But up next, Giannis played for the Bucks in his preseason debut on Sunday night. Plus, we had a Lakers-Warriors game, and we got to get to Denver and the LA Clippers. So we'll do that straight ahead right here on Locked On NBA Game Night. But first, today's show brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and, most importantly, reach peak performance. The Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. Plus, the swivel screen is a game changer because you can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat. And the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged, so you get workouts tailored to your vibe and your energy level each and every week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. That is OnePeloton.com. Again, onepeloton.com. Thank you again for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today and every day. It's a show where we talk about every game every night, and there were a lot of them in preseason action on Sunday. One of them of note was the Milwaukee Bucks as they took on the Chicago Bulls, and Giannis Antetokounmpo stepped on the floor. I believe it was his preseason debut for Milwaukee. Played 21 minutes, finished the night with just 13 points, 10 boards, 3 assists, was a +9 on the floor, and we get, as we just talked about with the Celtics, and it says more about the East than it does about them, that they should be a team competitive for the postseason this year. I look up and down this Milwaukee roster, and I really don't love it. But every time this guy steps on the floor, I'm just reminded, that guy, they have the best player in the conference still.
Yeah, they do. And I'm curious because one of the things I'm trying to self-check myself on is what would the Miles Turner addition I think could be better than a lot of people are giving it credit for because of what it will do. If Miles is like the defender he was last year, plus the shooter he was last year and the scorer he was, well, then I think that's going to aid Giannis. Giannis hadn't had a mobile big that's a good rim protector and legitimately an like if Zubac, Victor Wembanyama, that's a whole different tier. But whatever that next phase is, Miles Turner is really good at altering shots around the rim. And so if you have a player like that that's next to Giannis that allows for Giannis to be like the off-ball magnet that he is as a defender, and then you put a bunch of shooters around Giannis so his assist numbers can be juiced a little bit. I mean, there's a world where the Milwaukee Bucks have like a top 8 offense next year. Now their defense will be situationally better than it will be just good as a whole. But I do think there's still a reality, Danny, where Giannis, Miles Turner, obviously, Bobby Portis, Kyle Kuzma, that they're just a little bit better than folks give them credit for. And they're, all of a sudden I look up and they're 47 wins, 48 wins is a possibility for them.
I think the problem there is, go through the guys you named between Miles Turner, Bobby Portis, and Kyle Kuzma. What are none of those guys? None of those guys are creators. None of those guys are guards, because you can make the point that, Miles Turner probably a better big right now, certainly a better big right now than I think Brook Lopez is. I don't know about like early in Milwaukee, Brook, when he was really starting to stretch the floor and was, I think, a key piece on that title team. But for the past several years, he's played with either Drew Holiday or Damian Lillard. And this is such a stark drop off from those two guys to what Milwaukee has right now in the backcourt. So I look at their front court and say they could have one of the best front courts in basketball. But I also say they might have the worst backcourt in the game too. Like, that to me is the issue.
Yeah, well, KPJ and Gary Trent Jr. They'll have their nights.
Trust. They will, but you can't trust them consistently.
Wait, didn't Gary Trent had a 36 ball though in the playoff last year? So hey, what if he can replicate that 2 or 3 times a month? All-star Gary Trent. No, I'm just kidding.
I would bet against it.
Yeah, it's tough, but Giannis said he's going to give it 6 to 7 months, and timeline wise, I don't know if it will take that long because he needs to. By the time we get to January, I think we need to have that situation resolved on if Giannis is going to be there or not.
I think we'll know, but I think a Giannis trade is going to be too big and too complicated to do during the season. I think they're going to need to be too many moving pieces and parts. And especially with today's financial system that the NBA has in terms of like the apron, I just think it might need to be like a 3 or 4 team deal. And I think those teams, I think those are way too tough to work out during the season. Like, I think that 6 to 7 months is saying, we'll talk again in April, we'll talk again in May, whenever this season wraps up. That's when we'll figure stuff out. But I just don't see a way in which he can be traded during this season. I think that noise is never going to go away until he either comes out and says what Nikola Jokic said at Media Day, where he said, my plan is to be a Denver Nugget for life. Until Giannis says that about the Milwaukee Bucks, the noise is going to be there until that happens where he gets traded. But I don't think it's going to happen during the season. I just think it would be too tough to do.
So you think Giannis will go through another year of kind of mediocrity? And I mean, because some of my people believe that he's going to stay signed a $293 deal next year, which would be a 4-year $293, but then he'll have to wait an additional amount of time, to be able to move. So at that juncture, we're like talking about almost like a year and a half. Do you think Giannis can do that?
I don't think he signs the extension, and I think a lot of guys that we have seen that have signed that extension and then asked out are not guys of Giannis's caliber. Like, they are guys that get the max that are like, you're a max player, but I don't know that you're a max player to every team in the association. Like, sure. If you could pull all 30 GMs and say, is Giannis Antetokounmpo a max level player? And you would get 30 yes votes back in 1 minute. Like, it's not a debate. He is just that caliber of player. So wherever he goes, like, an extension would be there waiting for him. Like, it would not be a debate for any organization in the NBA. So I think that kind of solves that just a little bit. And then I do want to hit one more game before we move on to Denver and the Clippers, because the Los Angeles Lakers took on the Golden State Warriors Sunday night. They won 126 to 116. We'll dive into that. But first, here's Andy Kamenetsky with more.
Kamenetsky, co-host of the Locked On Lakers podcast, and the shorthanded Lakers beat the shorthanded Warriors 126-116 in the preseason. LeBron James is obviously expected to be out 3 to 4 weeks, and Luka Doncic has yet to make his preseason debut. But the Lakers, who were on the floor and have been practicing all week, looked far more organized and productive than they did in the previous 2 preseason games. Austin Reeves, 21 points, 16 points for Rui Hachimura. A nice showing for DeAndre Ayton on both sides of the ball. 14 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, and some very active feet defensively all over the floor. And Jake LaRavia filling up the stat line as well. 11 points, 5 assists, 4 steals. So lots still for the Lakers to work through trying to get a full squad together, but at least they looked far better than they did in the opening weekend of preseason games. For more Lakers coverage, make sure you're watching Locked On Lakers on YouTube and listening wherever you get your podcasts.
It's a nice win in the preseason for the Lakers. Do you have any concern about Luka not playing so far?
No. I mean, what's it gonna, what does that mean? Like, I'm sorry, I'm only gonna give you 33, 8 and 8 for the first 2 weeks. I'm still gonna be a top 4 player in the sport easily by the time I step back in. So I think it's a chemistry thing. I think that finding out for Ayton and for the rest of the roster, for them to figure out how to play together a little bit more. Now, I know a lot of Lakers fans are extremely concerned. So a lot of them are writing it off because, Lakers fans will just be like, oh, none of it matters. Some Lakers fans do feel like all of this matters. LeBron's not playing with anybody. Obviously, he's hurt. Luka's not playing with anybody. We're not getting any real development in minutes. And then Marcus Smart, injury history, age, all that stuff. They're feeling kind of a little pessimistic about things. So I'm not as concerned for Luka as I am. What does the rest of the roster around Luka, what does that settle into by the time we start the season? I can trust Reeves. I know Reeves is going to ball. I'm fully bought. Reeves needs a new contract anyway. Reeves is gunning for $35 million, so he's about to have a crazy year. But everybody else, there's an uncertainty that I think exists there. So the faster they can get Luka back on the floor, I think the better.
I do think that'd be a better thing because I do think continuity matters going into a season. The less integration that you have to do, and I know Luka has played there. He's not a brand new Laker being acquired at the trade deadline last year. But I think that the more time you can get on the floor with your teammates, the better off you're going to be, especially when you're trying to sort of just do things a little bit of a different way than the Lakers have before. Well, we've got a game in which the Stars actually played. Yeah, we're going to talk Denver against the Clippers coming up next. Plus, we've got a couple more games to get to right here on Locked On NBA Game Night. But first, today's show brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you absolutely don't want to miss because right now, new FanDuel customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you will unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. I told everybody on Locked On Cavs, I loved Pittsburgh minus the 4.5 this week. I actually went on FanDuel. I bet up Pittsburgh minus 9.5, and guess what? I won because the Browns stink. I'm sure that Swipa like Denver minus whatever they were favored by against the Jets. I don't know if they covered or not. I know it was an ugly game, and I know that if you have that bad taste in your mouth, you can watch Monday Night Football tonight. Buffalo in Atlanta. Buffalo favored by 3.5 points. I like the Bills to get it done there. I don't think Atlanta's all that good. I think Buffalo's very good, although maybe that's a bit of a trap game. I don't know, but I would take Buffalo in that one. And if you've not made a bet with FanDuel, now is the time because you place your first $5 bet. And like I said, if it hits $300, what is better than $300 in bonus bets coming your way? Nothing. So head on over to FanDuel right now, and that can be yours if you just win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com today. That is FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app and get started. Again, FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Today's show is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Did you know that most people can't name all their financial accounts or even how much money they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, investments? I don't know what else your money might be tied up, but it could be other places too. Monarch Money can help you track it all down. When you don't have that full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And I promise you, you don't want to do that. That's why there's Monarch Money, because it's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch built for people with busy lives. And if you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch Well, they're for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you so you can link all your accounts and minutes, see clear data visuals, and get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel like you're in control of your money without ever having to touch a spreadsheet. So what are you waiting for? Don't let this financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. It's a great deal. You're not going to want to miss it. 50% off your first year just by going to monarchmoney.com and using the code LOCKEDONNBA, that is spelled LOCKEDON NBA, for half off your first year. Again, head on over to monarchmoney.com and use code LOCKEDONNBA. Thank you again for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today and every day. If you're watching the show on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest from us here at Locked On NBA. And in what I thought was the best game of the day, the Denver Nuggets took on the LA Clippers, and stars played on both teams, which has been, I think, a rarity in this preseason. But Denver had what I believe is going to be their opening night starting five. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. The LA Clippers had what I believe will also be maybe their opening night starting five. We don't know if Bradley Beal going to be available. He did not play in that game. But the Nuggets won this one 102-94. Swipa, what do you think of your Nuggets tonight?
This was one of the most intense preseason games that I have seen in quite some time. These teams, as I've been stressing to people, the Clippers have only ever lost to one team when they've been fully healthy since Kawhi arrived in LA. The Nuggets in 2020 in 7 games, and then the Nuggets in 2025 in 7 games. There is like deep-rooted, not a negative bad blood, but it's like an animosity of competitiveness. They genuinely fight whenever they see each other. So in this instance, the Clippers came out smoking, to start the game off. Pick and rolls, the Nuggets they started off a little bit slow, but then eventually they caught on in the first quarter, and they just kind of went crazy. In the first quarter, Aaron Gordon, I think he scored 10 points in the first quarter. He was just kind of doing everything. Christian Brown was 3 or 4. He had 8 points, and then Nikola Jokic had 4 points and 3 assists in the first quarter. Both teams are just like trying to, I think, establish new identities. Kawhi Leonard had 17 points in the first half. AG had 16 points in the first half in total. I love the tenacity and the fight. And I'm telling you, Danny, we are about to get, every time all 4 of those men are healthy, bare matches. It is going to be wrestling. When Jonas and Brook Lopez are fighting, and then when Zubac and Jokic are fighting. Jonas Valanciunas and Brook Lopez were going at each other for a little bit. They were wrestling like in the mud, like looking for the treasure. They were going, and I'm talking about Jonas hit him over the shoulder, boom. Brook Lopez came back, fade away, boom, and then Brook Lopez, 3 threes in the first quarter. So I think Brook is going to be crazy with the Clippers this year, especially with all that defense around them. That was such a good basketball game to watch, Danny.
Are there 2 teams that have, I'm not like necessarily speaking about like tall guys. I'm speaking about big guys, because like Jokic is big, right? Jonas Valanciunas is big. Brook Lopez is big. Zubac is big. Like, there are centers that are tall guys, and then there are centers that are big guys. Mm-hmm. And these 2 teams both have centers that are big guys. And I can't think of other teams that necessarily have this. Like, I look at the Cavs centers. They've got Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley is a tall guy. He's not a big guy, right? Like, he doesn't fit into this. Even Jared Allen, closer to being a tall guy than a big guy, certainly plays more like a tall guy. But I can't think of 2 teams that have like center rotations like this that I just would want to watch over and over again.
Well, the other one is Houston, obviously, with Şengün and Steven Adams.
Yeah,
Şengün's a little bit wider than people realize. Like, he's a pretty like big dude, especially his legs. You can look at, obviously, like, I mean, Dallas is interesting because Dallas has Lively. Lively is just taller than you.
I think he's a tall guy. I don't think Lively's a big guy. I think he's a tall guy.
Yeah, but they got Gafford too. Gafford's a wider dude.
He's a bigger
Anthony
guy.
Davis, this new
He's
Anthony Davis.
Guy. He's a tall guy. Anthony Davis is a tall guy. Anthony Davis is a tall guy. Come on. Well, Anthony Davis does not want to play center. He's a tall guy.
Portland.
You can't say I'm only a power forward and then be a big guy.
Portland with Donovan Clingan and Yang.
I think I need to see Yang play a little bit,
Sure.
like in real games before I can make that, just like make sure he's actually good.
Right.
But he could be that could be another one because Donovan Clingan certainly qualifies with who he is.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
it's so fun. I think I really hope, and I know that this is so far away, and I know that there's a lot of time before we get to that. I really hope that both these teams meet in the postseason again and are both healthy, because you brought up 2020 and 2025 as Denver being the only team to beat a healthy version of the Clippers. I think it says a lot that there has not been a healthy version of the Clippers in between 2020 and 2025. So I would really love to see these two teams play again in the postseason this year with both teams being really healthy. I think that would be a great thing. And then the last game for us to get to today, the Toronto Raptors moved to 3-1 this preseason with a 113-112 win over the Washington Wizards. Emmanuel Quickly, 18 points on 6 of 16 shooting. RJ Barrett had a solid game with 15 points on 2 of 5 from 3. Scotty Barnes didn't have a great night from the floor, just 3 of 11, but did have 10 points, 12 boards for Toronto. As for Washington, CJ McCollum had 19 points. The Wizards, I just look up and down this box score, and it is young guys and guys at the very end, and it feels like not much in between.
Yeah, they're in development phase. Everything about them is trial run. Cam Whitmore off the bench at 10 points today. They got CJ McCollum and Chris Middleton, but I don't know how much longer they're going to be on that roster. Everybody else on the roster literally is trying to figure out their place in the league. So, I mean, the Wizards are just going to have a lot of up and down basketball. I actually really think Corey Kisper's good. He's the type of player that I think would be good on a few different rosters. Bub Carrington is he's kind of you have your Bones Highland and Rob Dillingham. Bub Carrington kind of in that category. But I actually think he has a legit sneaky chance of actually being really good at some point. But again, I could be tripping off that. But he's about 6'4". He's tall, lanky. He can play. I'm actually, slightly excited to watch the Wizards play this year, especially with Sarr coming off what he did in Eurobasket last year.
Yeah, I do think they'll be an interesting watch. They're going to be a bad team, but I do think that they have a chance to at least be interesting, which, hey, if you're going to be bad, be interesting while you do. Don't be bad and boring. No one wants that. But thank you for making today's edition of Locked On NBA your first listen. Thank you for making this show on this channel your first listen every day. The best way you can help us out, please make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else, and on YouTube as well. Do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button as we get out of here, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest from us here at Locked On NBA. We'll be back a little bit later talking more about the NBA.